Alas, these beings are traveling in the desert of routine existence. They are in trouble, uneasy, fallen into a great pitfall, facing a fall into the realms of hell's animality or the underworld. Hell's animal realm or the ghostly world. They are ensnared in the dangerous net of false views, entangled in delusion. They have gone off on the wrong road. They are blind. They lack a guide. They think what is not salvation is salvation. They're bound by the rope of demons. They are taken in by the thieving sense objects. They are without a good guide. They have entered a thicket of demonic dispositions, becoming far estranged from the enlightened mind. We should save them from such hardships of the wasteland of the mundane world, and should settle them in the city of fearlessness, the city of all knowledge, where there is no affliction or pain. These beings, unfortunately, are sunk in the waves of great torrents, plunged into the flows of desire, existence, ignorance, and views, swept along by the current of the mundane whirl, fallen into the river of craving, into a great rapids, unable to see objectively, going along the creepers of thoughts of lust, malice, and viciousness, caught by the demon of the view of real existence of the body, plunged into the swirling abyss of desire, into the midst of passion for enjoyment, cast up on the land of self-conceit, rotten inside with misconduct and bad behavior, unable to escape the danger of the village of the six senses, without anyone to rescue them, without a savior, without a protector, without a refuge. We should bring forth great compassion, virtue, and power, and set them on the jewel island of omniscience, free from troubles, free from passion, peaceful, happy, free from danger, beyond all fears. Yes, this is how we should see the world. This is a very good way to see the world. I would recommend that you see the world in this way. Look at the world like this. Partially because we walk this path to become free from the world. And it's good for us to look at a world that's destroying itself, it's destroying life on the planet, with a sense of pity. This is good because at the very least what will happen is that we will feel above the world. We'll look down on it. This isn't ideal, but it's better than how we normally approach it, which is to say, "Oh world, please help me. Please give me what I want. My happiness depends on your approval. If I could just get the things that you offer me, then finally I would be fulfilled. Please, world, control my life." This is not a healthy way to look at the world. It is, however, how most people look at it, even most people who come here. Deep down inside, still look at the world that way. There's a sense, well, that's the real world, and I have to go back to it. I must be a slave to it. I must work within it because it's reality, and it's the only true source of happiness. It's actually interesting. The longer people stay, the more it becomes clear that we really believe that. Sometimes we have to go back out and give that a try. That's what Horan was saying, saying if you believe that this world can give you happiness, go and try it. Give it a shot. We all know how that's going to go, but apparently you don't. So you have to give it a try. Okay, give it a try. We've all tried it. It just turns out that it's pretty bad. That's all. It's just pretty bad. It tricked you. It fooled you. These thieves, as it talks about here, fooled you, tricked you, enslaved you. And sometimes we have to see, oh boy, that was terrible. I don't want to be a slave to that. So at the very least, we look down on the world. It's not, what would you say? It's not very good, but it's better than the way we normally approach things. Look at it, feeling a sense of concern for all of these people who are lost in this desert of the mundane world. It's awful. However, this isn't the best way to look at it. It's not the ideal way. Because that doesn't yet demonstrate real self-confidence. What this passage demonstrates for us is real self-confidence. True self-confidence. So, I'm proclaiming this as a good way to look at things, right? Does that make sense? Maybe you know where I'm going with this already. I claim that one should look at things in this way. So it would be reasonable that I might look at things in this way if I'm going to make such a claim. Right? So here I am, and here you are. You following?
Yes.
Good. Yes. So, I was talking to my friend Josh, who I'm very much enjoying turning into a legend. It's so much fun. I've watched myself be turned into a legend, and I'm enjoying doing it to someone else. So, Josh, my good friend from, maybe we were 11 or 12 when we met, a little while ago, was dating someone, dating a woman who was just never going to take care of him. That was just never going to happen. She was going to be cared for by him. He's very good at taking care of people. But she was just never going to take care of him. It was never going to happen. She was never going to actually do it. When he needed someone to take care of him, it wasn't going to be her. Might be me, might be someone else, but not her. And we would talk about this. We'd talk about it. It's interesting, isn't it? This woman is just never going to take care of you. It never occurred to her to take care of you. It will never occur to her to take care of you. That just isn't something that shows up in her mind. It occurs to her that you should take care of her, but it doesn't really occur to her that she should take care of you. How is that possible? And we would talk about it. And so eventually, so eventually it's coming back to you, you know, right? Yeah. Just to warn you. It's okay. It's a fun talk. Don't worry. You'll enjoy the talk. But what is it? What do you call it when you make a sale and you want someone to do something?
Pitch.
Yeah, the pitch, and then you have something, you tell them now you have to do something. At the end of it, there has to be call to action. There will be a call to action at the end of this. So, just to warn you. So, I asked him, I said, well, you take care of people a lot. It always occurs to you to take care of people. That shows up in your mind all the time. When did that start? And he said, well, that probably started when I was in my late teens, and my mother got cancer, and I had to start taking care of my sister, and actually had to start running the entire household. And then my mother passed away, and I had to finish raising my sister and deal with the whole house situation and all of the legal issues, on and on. You know, at that point, I kind of grew up. And I realized that not only must I do these things, but I can do these things, and even beyond that, I like doing these things. It's nice to take care of my sister. That feels good. I enjoy it. She needed to be taken care of. She doesn't need it anymore, but she did then, and I did what I needed to do to get her to the point when she didn't need it anymore, and that felt great. It's amazing. I like taking care of people. It actually isn't even that hard once you know how to do it. You just sort of pay attention, and then they tell you stuff, and then you do that. It's actually relatively easy. And so you get a lot of reward for very little effort compared to most of life. So that's when I learned it. He said, what about you? You take care of people all the time. When did you learn to do it? I said, yeah, for me it was a little later. For me it was when I was in my mid-20s. I went to India, and it was my job to take care of a bunch of little boys. So I went there, and I like kids, so it was nice to go there, nice to have that job. I was invited to do it, and that felt like an honor. Plus, they gave me training in many different ways. That was very beneficial to me. And so I went there, and Bodhidharma Bhanteji was there, and he was raising these boys in a way that I'd never seen anyone raise anyone, because I had never lived in India. And it's all different there, and yet he had every expectation that I would be able to take over for him when he left, which he did in just a few months, and then I had to take care of these boys on my own for a little while. There was support from the lay people in the village, in the town. I wasn't the only one, but I was the main one. I was the adult living there. And I just realized I had to figure it out, kind of like you. You had to figure out all these legal issues. You were really young, I said. Well, I was pretty young too. I was just a few years older than you were in the story you just told. And I had to figure out all kinds of stuff. How do I discipline these boys? Well, I made a lot of mistakes in that. I thought a good way to discipline them was to be their friends. I thought I'd be friends with all of them. That went really badly. That was a terrible decision. But I tried it, and then I realized I can't do it that way. I have to do it differently. And then I figured out a different way, and it was a little better. And I'd make mistakes that I thought were improvements, that were definitely not improvements. I thought, I've got it. I'll treat them as equals. That did not go well. That was horrible. So I thought, I've got it. I'll treat them as inferiors. That did not go well. I had to figure it out. It was really hard. And I had to deal with it when they were suddenly in a fight. How do I deal with that? We had lots of fights. What happens? What happens when something gets stolen? I don't know who stole it. I have to deal with it. How do I extract that information from this group? It's not easy. How do I deal with it when they need to do their schoolwork? I had to learn the language. I mean, what else was I supposed to do? I had to help them. I had to just figure it out. I had to figure out ways of getting more food for less money so that we could have more nutritious food, because that matters to these young boys. I had to figure out which precepts we were going to basically break for their nutritional benefit. For example, we ate in the evening. We had 3 meals a day. These are young kids. They're running around playing cricket. They need dinner. That's what I thought anyway. Different monks disagreed. I had to make a decision. They criticized me for it. I didn't know if I was right or wrong. I just had to do something. Sometimes I thought I was right, and then later it turned out I was wrong. Sometimes I thought I was wrong, and then later it turned out I was right. I had to deal with it when we had a water shortage. How do you apportion water? Not only to the boys, but also to the village, to the people living nearby who depend on us, because we had a nice cistern. Very big. And what do you do when you find, even though there's a water shortage and we have limited water, we don't know when the water is coming back again, when you still find them wasting water? which they did. Just leave the tap open. Just somebody forgot to turn it off. It's as simple as that. Things like that happen around here too, even though you're not 8. So what do? I had to figure it out. And I don't know if the decision I made was good. I said, okay, no one can have water for the rest of the day. That's what I did. I didn't know what to do because it actually matters. I mean, there's actually not enough water. I need the boys to understand that you have to turn it off. You have to turn the tap off. There's only this much. It's not like here where we have a well where there's unlimited amounts of water that we can get. There's only so much water in the tank, and we don't know when it's coming back. We're in a poor area. They only send us water sometimes. We the wrong caste. So you're not quite important enough to get water. So we had to deal with that. And we do political protests and say we need water, but right now there just isn't water. You have got to turn off the tap. And I would tell them and get the same glazed look that I often get when I talk to you guys about these things. They said, yeah, right. No, you really have to turn off the water. So I said, okay, I need to make you feel this. No water for the rest of the day. And then there are these edge cases. This kid didn't drink water, but he washed his face. What happens then? Did he break the rule? What do I do now? Oh boy, I don't know how to handle this. It's confusing, but I have to handle it right away. I have to respond immediately. So I had a situation where a great deal of what you see in these pages, what you hear in this text, was how I felt. That these boys have gone off on the wrong road. Yes? They left the water on. Wrong road. Don't do that. And I thought I should save them from this hardship of not enough water. How do I do it? Well, yeah, we'd do a protest, but I also need them to turn off the tap, so I need to make that happen. I don't know how to make it happen. And I needed to be creative in it. I needed to do things I didn't know how to do badly because something had to be done. And at that time, I grew up and realized, oh, I can take care of people. I actually can take care of people. I can do it. I can be creative. I can make mistakes. I can learn from those mistakes. And it's fun. It's worth doing. It's rewarding. So that's when I learned, I said. That was the time when I realized I can do this. So then he asked me the obvious question, didn't he? Because I didn't ask him the obvious question, because in his case, there's no question. The obvious question for him was, so how are you going to get this girl to grow up and start taking care of you? Well, the answer is, she's never going to do that, so it's no problem. Let the relationship die and move on. That's the answer. That's what he did. Good solution, actually. They're still friends. But he could ask me the obvious question, couldn't he? Couldn't he? That's an obvious question that is worth asking, isn't it? It's a good question, isn't it? You all know what the question is, right? Half of you know what the question is and half of you don't. Well, that seems to correlate pretty well with how long you've lived here. The question is, so how are you going to get those monastics back there at the Monastic Academy to grow up and realize that they can take care of each other? How are you going to do that, he asked me. I said, I have no idea. I don't know. I'm working on it every day. He said, yeah, you should do that. Because they should grow up. That would be better. It would be better if they understood what you and I understand. The more people in the world who understand this, the better. Partially because the world's a better place, but also partially because you're just happier if you know that you can take care of people. It's a sense of deep confidence. Changes your life, actually. It makes these challenges fun. And it's a feasible path out of the ordinary way of living. And so we started planning it out a little bit. Wondering, okay, how to do this? Because basically, you see this point about they will know all things as they really are without being directed by another. You see this part about rotten inside with misconduct and bad behavior. These are very important phrases. So many of us, our motivation for caring is that we want to be needed. We want to be admired. We want to be valued. And these are fine. It's not that there's something wrong with wanting to be valued. That's okay. It just isn't what this text is about. And it isn't what the conversation between Josh and me was about. Because it's nice to have someone like him. Because the vast majority of what he did for her, she at best didn't notice, but some of it she's angry about, isn't she? Those of us who have been parents understand. Parents, my kids. So those of us who have been in this position understand that sometimes when you do the thing that is best for someone, they get most angry at you about it. So he wasn't doing it for credit. He didn't help her because she would like him more. He helped her despite the fact that she would not like him because of it. She'd be mad at him. What are you doing believing in me? Right? That kind of question. Be mad at, what is this? Come on. This is abusive. Thinking that I'm competent, capable, wonderful. Come now. How can you think such things? So obviously it isn't done for admiration or respect, and definitely not being done to be needed. Because as their relationship went on, she needed him less and less. That's how you know he was taking care of her. So what is the motivation there? What is that motivation? As many of us know, the statistics are clear. I was speaking about this with one of you recently. In modern times, in the modern world, narcissism is growing like wildfire. Because of the society we grow up in, because of the circumstances of our upbringing, narcissism has shifted from being almost fatal socially to being quite beneficial socially. It makes sense now in a way that has never made sense before. And so we have to ask, okay, so probably, let's face it, probably a lot of us are somewhat narcissistic. Let's face it, we have this tendency. Shall we? If you don't want to do that, well then you should definitely do that. If you think, oh no, I'm not a narcissist, so consider it even more firmly if you think you don't need to. If we're looking at this, we need some way to get out of it. And it's difficult to get out of it. It's difficult to move through this because basically narcissism is caused by a deep belief that you're broken, that you're worthless, that your experience is fundamentally and inherently, therefore permanently, irrelevant. That's the basis of narcissism. For whatever reason, you grew up in a way that meant that your experience doesn't matter. And our society proclaims this quite loudly, but then the circumstances of our upbringing also tend to proclaim this quite loudly. Here, of course, we try to do it very differently, right? You get to meet with someone almost every day, hopefully every day, and all they want to do is talk about your experience. Your experience is the only thing that matters to that person, to the teacher here. Your experience is the whole deal. You really matter. Your experience matters. Everything about you matters. You're totally loved. You're given space. That's what it's for. I mean, I understand. A lot of the time we use the interviews to feel self-conscious and such. But great, so that's your thing. Tell me all about it, right? You know what I mean? We want to go in an interview and be liked. All right, so that's how it's going for you right now. You want to be liked. Let's talk about that for a while. It's great. Any of it's fine. It's totally accepted. It's given space. For how long? Well, honestly, forever. That's how long. Right? I mean, what we need in order to overcome narcissism is for someone to say, listen, I am willing to sacrifice my entire life, everything I want, to give you some space to be loved. That is what we need. That's what our society doesn't give us, which is why we're narcissists. Because we think, I'm not worthy of that. I'm not worthy of someone's entire life. But you are. And if it is the case that in this moment, in a moment, we're seen as we really are, and we're loved totally, well, narcissism can't survive that. Ego can't survive that. Can't survive being seen and loved completely. Ego, and this extreme specific case of narcissism, requires being invisible, not being seen, or if we are seen, being hated for who we really are. You know, somebody might see us for who we really are, but then realize, now that I have that information, I can fix you. But that isn't this. That isn't what we do here. We do the opposite of that here. So we're given that space to be seen and loved. Not in order to be trapped or enslaved. Not in order to have a dependence on something, but in order to become independent. To get to the point when we ourselves are free of these tendencies and can begin on a path of overcoming these tendencies, just say narcissism or ego in general, through our own actions. And what are those actions? Well, the feasible path forward is caring for people. Caring for yourself, caring for others. Why? Because at first, we can use these tendencies. I want to be liked, I want to be respected, I want to be accepted, I want to have a place, I want to be valued by this society. That's what I really want, because that will make me feel safe. That'll be a supply of self-confidence where deep down inside there is none. But I'll get it. And then we start to take those actions. Start to really take those actions for ourselves. And we notice something utterly life-altering. And that is, I like it. And I actually like it. I'm not just pretending I like it. I actually like it. And the thing I like about it isn't just that people like me. I actually like helping people. And if that's true, then I am the answer. I am the solution to all of the world's problems. I am the answer. Who I really am, is it. I mean, I'm that good. I'm that amazing. I'm perfect. Narcissism, ego, can't survive that. Rotten inside with misconduct and bad behavior. We don't understand how deep the impact of our misconduct and bad behavior is. Because every time that we behave in ways that are, quote, bad, that are misconduct, we confirm to ourselves, I'm broken, I'm bad, I'm the problem. We make that statement, and we have to carry it because we did it. We carry it through our lives, and we carry it beyond that, beyond our death, and it creates the next existence. This sense of self, sense of who we are, created by both the perceptions that we've learned to perceive and also the behaviors that we've learned to behave. Because we have that, we produce a self, and we start perceiving the whole world through that self. We see ourselves a certain way, and everything is filtered through that sense of self. It's very difficult to break through that. If we perceive ourselves as broken, worthless, then everything has to be seen accordingly. It's very hard to break that. If we see ourselves as worthless, unlovable, and somebody loves us, then there's only one way to understand that, which is that this is an untrustworthy person. Yes? They are at best stupid, but probably they're trying to trick me because I'm not lovable, but they're acting as if they love me. They're treating me well. So we see them with suspicion, disrespect, perhaps hatred. Because all those actions are being filtered through a sense of self that we're carrying around with us, looking at everything through. If you really care about me, then you are at best stupid. So I can't trust you. But I doubt you really care about me. You're just acting that way. Why? What do you want out of me? Because that's all I am really worth. I am a resource to be used, really. So why do you want to use me in this way? We live like this because we're carrying this around because we've learned to perceive in certain ways and we've learned to behave in certain ways. As we learn to perceive differently through our beneficial action, through caring, through being creative, through taking responsibility for being of benefit, as we start perceiving differently, we don't only perceive other people as beautiful, but we perceive ourselves as loving, as being the love that saves the world. And that means that I am something far more than a resource. But see, the thing about it which is so special is that this is a feasible path. Because this love of caring, you can perceive yourself as just a resource, you see? So it's feasible. You all following this or not? Is this too complicated? A little bit? Yeah. Okay. It's confusing, I know. You're not following it?
The last bit.
Okay, so you see yourself as a resource. You need a feasible step to get you to seeing that you're not merely a resource. So you need a way of perceiving yourself as a resource that will take you beyond the belief that you're just a resource, and that is being a source of love in the world. Right? So I'm just a resource. I have love in my heart and you can take it and use me. And then you realize, no, wait. I'm much more than that. Right? So it's feasible, you see. You realize, look, I can be of benefit. I can fix you, you know? I can improve you through my work. Yes? That's feasible because I see you as, if I see myself as broken, of course I'm going to see you as broken. I can't help it. So good news, I can do this good work and fix you and improve you. And then you do it and you realize, oh no, I love you. I don't actually want to fix you. And then you realize, oh, if I feel that way, I'm not broken either. So it's a completely feasible series of steps as long as we include this sense of deep compassion. That's why it's in the second stage here. It allows us to go beyond the deep ingrained sense of inadequate, broken, worthless self that we have come to embody. We embody it. It doesn't mean it's us. So it becomes essential that we know that we are rotten inside with misconduct and bad behavior, but that rottenness, that brokenness, is a produced phenomenon. It's produced by our perceptions and our behaviors. It's not real, it's not inherent, it's not who we truly are. And it's by acting, it's by behaving in a way in which we truly care for people that a new kind of wisdom emerges. That we don't need to be dependent or directed by another. That's what should happen as we move through this training. We sit and we learn all these techniques, and then we suddenly realize, wait, I can use these techniques. We're asked to do tasks that we don't know how to do. Of course, it can seem really frustrating. Why do we have to do these stupid tasks? This is ridiculous. But then we realize, wait, there's a creativity and there's a fun in doing this. That fun is the point of the task. You're asked to do these tests in order to learn that fun in being of service, in making things beautiful, in being the one who can serve. And then ultimately here, we're put in charge of others. And we're asked to care, to really care. And with this, something new emerges. Something different emerges, and to be caring, considerate, truly self-sacrificing becomes natural. Then we see the value of this chapter on ethics, on virtue. That this is the basis. That this is what the path is all about. This is the foundation. And we feel so excited to have found it, because if you take this as the foundation, ethical, loving, compassionate behavior, perception and behavior as the foundation, that changes the way you see the whole world. Too much of modern spirituality does not ask us to change how we see the whole world. On the contrary, it attempts to fit Buddhism or mysticism or enlightenment into the way we already see the world. Because everybody knows that that's a much easier sell. If you're trying to, somebody recently, somebody from the Bay Area, naturally, asked me recently to do an interview in which I told them how do they put it? What is my definition of enlightenment? Thank you for laughing. I laughed. It's the most ridiculous question. It is the number one ridiculous question on the planet. Mm-hmm. What is your definition of enlightenment? There are so many layers of ridiculousness in that. I don't have time right now. I'm over time. Wow. So, we have this desire to fit enlightenment into somebody's definition, to some way of seeing things. Liberation does not fit into that. We can come up with definitions, sure. You want a definition? No problem. Got it. Done. Read the text. And in this stage of the text, having followed the first stage in which the aspiration for enlightenment is consolidated, now it's about virtue. It's about ethical behavior. It's about actually caring, taking personal responsibility for all of the suffering throughout the world. Knowing that I will be the one to find out how to solve all of these problems. I will take care of everyone always until all of the problems are completely solved. This is not what you normally get in these modern versions, where you get to take a 2-week course for thousands of dollars with a, 95% enlightenment rate or something like that. Enlightenment means that you have totally sacrificed your entire life and all of your future lives in order to solve all of the suffering throughout all space and all time for all beings. And I want to be clear, that doesn't mean you're enlightened. That's an early prerequisite. You then totally change your entire life, right now and every day, in order to actually achieve these incredible goals that are described here. And with that comes the realization that this is not made up. This is not made up. This is not just some definition that somebody made up that you can map onto other people's definitions and have a project. I'm going to talk to her, by the way, and participate, just so you know. I like it. I like that she's doing it. It's fun. I'm in. But it's ridiculous. Don't worry, I'll tell her. It's absurd. Because this is real. This is not imaginary. And the way we find out that it's real is by putting our real lives into it. And finding out if it supports that. Finding out if it is bigger than changing our entire life. With that comes, boom, a new kind of energy, a new kind of power. And those of us who have lived here for a while have seen this come forth. People move through the training in the early stages and then they're given a position of power, and it is incredible to see the training that they've done burst forth in real wisdom that really functions in really difficult situations. Right? Yes, it's true, isn't it? It's not a joke. It's not a joke. I'm looking at Ashley. I mean, you see the hard work and you say, no, I'm sleepy and I don't know how to do this and what am I doing here anyway? And then you're given a chance and something comes forth and you can't even believe it and you save somebody's life. I mean, I'm not exaggerating, okay? Am I exaggerating? No. You think I am? Do you think I'm exaggerating?
What do you mean save a life?
Oh, you mean like, were they going to get hit by a car?
I just want to hear more about what exactly that means.
Okay. It means that at the very least, a person may be in position to, in a short time, feel more insecure, even hated, and bring forth a sense of distrust and divorce from the whole world than they ever have before when it's already pretty bad. And instead of that, rather than that happening, instead of that, there's a sense of connection and hope and belief in the possibility of trusting to a certain extent now and even more in the future. That is at the very least what I'm talking about. But it is possible also that that pain could become so great that it could be a dangerous situation, and that danger would not come forth due to the wisdom and the compassion of people who have taken responsibility for caring for that person. Is that clear? And would you agree with all that? So this is real. This is real. And we should have the expectation that this sort of thing will burst forth as we do this training. But if we don't actually give ourselves to it, we don't actually make these changes, if we don't actually put ourselves in this position of needing to truly care, to truly take responsibility, to be truly compassionate, to solve problems that no one knows how to solve. These are huge problems. There is not a formula. You might need to read it again. I know I read it fast, but the text is actually talking about something. Okay? The text, I know we're just in the second stage, and it already seems just unbelievable. I mean, the first stage already seems unbelievable. But the second stage, this is ridiculous. They couldn't really mean this. I know, you're probably feeling that way. But consider the possibility that they actually mean this. That they are actually talking about the thing that the words are talking about. The word, what if this is good writing? Okay, what if this means what it seems to mean? And you don't have to cover it over with layers of, yeah, but they couldn't really mean that. I wonder what they really mean. It must be much less than that. What would that say about us? That says something about who and what we are. That we are going to take this level of responsibility, but if you take that level of responsibility, then you see that the very first thing that we're going to do now, because we're in an awakening week, is purify our perception so that when we come out of this in just a few days, a totally new life, a totally new kind of behavior will be able to burst forth. And that means that whatever happens, we're going to work with it with a technique. Whatever it is, we're going to work with it to purify our minds, to purify our conception of who we are and what the world is. We're going to take advantage of every opportunity that's what we're doing right now. And that's the call to action. Do that with the goal of being truly caring so that a wisdom can burst forth that you cannot currently imagine. Make use of this feasible path. Take clear steps by purifying your perception of the sense of who you are and what you're capable of and what the world is and how it functions. Purify that so that a new kind of wisdom can burst forth and you behave in ways that you right now cannot imagine, ways that you could not choose to behave at this time, today. By the end of the retreat, those choices will happen. And then you'll do those things, and people will actually be benefited. And you'll be able to say, oh, this is not just made up. It's not just an advertising campaign. I have confirmed at least part of this. And a joy greater than any ego, greater than any narcissistic tendency, comes forth and directly encounters the suffering of the world. This is compassion. Please, make use of this opportunity to develop the compassion that leads to wisdom, that leads to compassion.